Hey everybody, it's Galmadex, and welcome to the Magic Foundations Arena Open Day 1 event. This is a best of 1 Foundations sealed event where we're trying to get 7 wins before 3 losses in order to qualify for Day 2. If we can do that, Day 2 is going to be best of 3 draft with potential cash prizes on the line. This is a very high stakes, very high variance event. It is 5,000 gems or 25,000 gold, and you're not really going to get that back unless you get a full 7-win run. So certainly a pretty expensive event, but that is because you can get up to like $2,000 prizes if you get all the way through day 2 pretty much undefeated. So very exciting, very intense event. Without further ado, let's just bust open our packs and see what we get to build with today. All right, we have opened up 7 rares. A few of these are actually quite good and sealed. Actually, most of them. I think Brass's Bounty is literally unplayable, and Crystal Barricade is really mediocre. But Leyline Axe fits into any deck, and it's very powerful in your opening hand. But even later, while it may be a bit expensive, +1/+1 double strike trample turns even the smallest creature into a must-be-dealt-with threat. The Spinner of Souls is one of green's best rares. It's going to force them to use removal on the spinner, or else you're going to keep drawing cards every time one of your other creatures dies, which is pretty absurd, especially on a creature that's already above rate. 3 mana for a 4/3 with reach, so it can beat down as well. Board wipes are great in sealed. Sealed tends to play a little slower than draft. You can get into these massive board stalls, and if you get into one of those, you can just start drawing and holding on to your creatures until inevitably Day of Judgment flips the game in your favor. There's also Seer Slicer Goblin, which has a ridiculously good raid ability, spitting out a 1/1 every time you attack. And Kiora, the Rising Tide, another card that, while it is probably a tiny bit better in sealed, is already incredible in draft. You do have to get Threshold for her to be super powerful, but if you're late in the game, it's really easy to have 7 or more cards in your grave, especially when she puts 2 in your grave off of that discard 2, and the attack trigger of spitting out an 8/8 is insane. So some really strong rares here. They are a little all over the place, every color except black here, so we'll have to see, based on our commons and uncommons, really what direction we go with these rares, but they look quite powerful, so I'm pretty excited to see that. So I do like checking out the multicolored cards and the colorless cards first. Colorless can show off how much mana fixing we're going to have to help us out here. There's 1 Heraldic Banner, 1 Burnished Heart, 1 Campus Guide. Not a huge fan of any of these cards. Honestly, not a huge fan of the fixing in Foundations. I tend to play 2 colors, maybe splash a third. And towards that splash, all of our dual lands are in green, black, and blue. So if we play blue-black, we could splash green. If we play green-blue, we could splash black, anything like that. That's where our mana fixing really helps us. Plus, both of our multicolored cards are in Sultai as well, the Dreadwing Scavenger being one of the best signpost uncommons in the set. Honestly, arguably even better than Tachiova because it's so efficient. 3 mana for a 2/2 flyer. You draw a card, discard a card the second you play it, and every time it attacks. And if you get Threshold, it's a 3/3 Death Touch flyer. Love the card. Sweet card selection. And then Tachiova, of course, is just sweet card draw straight up. Much simpler card, just landfall, drawing you cards. So really good multicolored cards in the Sultai direction. And not the greatest fixing out of our colorless spells, but we do have those Sultai duels. So we'll keep that in mind. I don't know how likely we are to be playing in Sultai because we don't have any black rares, but maybe the commons and uncommons will be pretty good there. So checking out each colors individually, really like our white here. So we obviously have that Day of Judgment for a full-on board wipe, but we also have Banishing Light for great removal, Make Your Move, which is main deckable in sealed. There are some decent artifacts and enchantments and creatures with power 4 or greater. It'd be pretty difficult for your opponent to have 0 targets in their deck for this. And then what I really, really love here is 3 Felidar Savior. This is very good in any deck that can curve out into it. So if you can have 2 creatures on board before you resolve this, you're getting 4 power and 5 toughness worth of stats, a lot of which has a lifelink. Of course, the Cat Collector is excellent with lifelinkers, like the Felidar Savior. Gives you a wide board state, like that a lot. We actually don't have a ton of lifelink here, awkwardly, for the Cat Collector, but maybe our secondary color could help a little bit. If we went like full Bant, we could have Techova in here. That's technically life gain. But something like this, like these are all of our playable white spells here. I could play Hair Parents if I need filler, but they're not exciting. But yeah, love the Day of Judgment, love the removal. The triple Faladar Saber and the Cat Collector is also pretty spicy. White does not look bad at all. As for the blue, we have three Big Fin Bouncer, really good tempo play. Mischievous Mystic, very good if we have ways to draw a card and discard a card. Which we've got one with Refute, but we would never cast Refute during our turn. So it looks like this deck is actually not very good at triggering Mystic. We can trigger it off of Kiora, or Fleeting Distraction, or Icewind Elemental. Three cards in total. So we'd need a secondary color with some amount of card draw, which there isn't a lot of in other colors in the format. So that makes Mystic kind of awkward, but still playable because it's 2 mana, 2/1 flyer. And then Erudite Wizard, I wouldn't really think would be playable here. Most of the rest of this is pretty filler. I mean, the Bouncers and the QR are pretty exciting. Their Feud's good, the Mystic's good, but then it's just a big chunk of filler. Blue looks okay. I definitely prefer the white here. As for our black, wow, okay. So, despite not having any rares, black is certainly playable just for the amount of interaction it gets us. Stab, bake into a pie, 2 eaten alive. Pilfer even sort of counts. If you have this in your opening hand, you rip your opponent's bomb out of their hand. And the creatures, are they good? Yeah, Burglar Rat's good, Hungry Ghoul's good. Skeleton and Blood Witch, not so much. Those are more narrow. They're kind of build-aroundy, but they do work well in a deck that has ways to sack things, like a deck with a Hungry Ghoul in it. That said, we only have the one Hungry Ghoul. But Nighthawk, Vessel, and Plunderer are all great spells as well. So even if we don't play Blood Witch or Skeleton, black already looks pretty good. And if we went like black-white, we could play Blood Witch just for the life gain triggers still. But that'll depend. We'll have to see if we go in that direction, whether or not we want to do that. But I definitely like the black. I certainly think this is better than blue. So white and black are our best colors for now. Red has an insanely aggressive curve of just nothing but 2-drops, but are they any good is the question. Not really. I mean, Cerberus, Seer Slicer Goblin, and Immolator can certainly put in work, but having only one toughness is very detrimental in this format. Two of the best commons in the set are Burglar Rat, the 2 mana 1/1, each opponent discards a card, and Helpful Hunter, the 2 mana 1/1, when this enters, draw a card. Both of those have an enter effect that immediately gives you a card worth of value, so trading something like a Firebrand Archer into one of those is super bad. You get 2 for 1 immediately, so I really don't like 1 toughness, 2 mana creatures like that, to where I wouldn't really want to run any of the archers. Courageous Goblin and Cavalry are still playable. We would run them, but they're not super exciting. Definitely wouldn't be a Seismic Rupture deck. This kills every single red creature in here. Definitely not a Hitsugu's second right deck. The card is way too narrow. Brass's Bounties, bad, and then there's some mediocre combat tricks and a mediocre removal spell. So, I mean, it's cute that we have a million 2-mana cards here, but I don't think this actually translates into being anything particularly powerful. Unless we really want to try to cheese people out and just run a deck of nothing but 2 and 3 mana creatures and some Goblin Surprise style +2/+0 to everybody kind of spells. Like if we went Boros here, we would have the Goblin Surprise, and we'd also have 2 Claws out potentially to give the whole board +2/+2. So that's technically an option. Run a million 2-drops and just pray that we hit a Goblin Surprise or a Claws out to end our opponent quickly, but does not seem like the most consistent path that we could take. And last but not least, our green has very, very, very few creatures, which is quite awkward. And the spells are not too much better, to be honest. Inspiring Call with only a few creatures that get counters on them. Garruk's Uprising with only a few creatures that would draw us a card off of it. Broken Wings, I guess, is barely main deckable, but Grow from the Ashes not that exciting. Nor is like Bushwhack. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of our green outside of our fantastic rare, which is Spinner of Souls. So I'm not super looking towards that. I kind of want to see what black-white looks like. We might take a peek at Boros, and then because of our multicolored spells, because I really like Dreadwing Scavenger, might look at blue-black and splash in green just for like Tachiyova and the spider here. So I think those are the directions I'm seeing that look like potentially powerful spots to be. So I'm going to start with black-white. I feel like this color pair would take really good advantage of the Day of Judgment. It's an absolute game ender because we have plenty of other removal to clean things up post board wipe if we need to. So we can cut 7 cards here. It's probably the claws out. We play a much grindier, less aggressive game plan with this deck. Probably the combat trick as well. This is 4 cards getting cut. We want to cut 7. These Heir Apparents are basically 2-mana 2/2s with no abilities. Skeleton's really only good with the Ghoul. That's another potential cut. I think I'm going to overcut a little bit here. So I can look at potentially splashing blue. Our fixing is really not great. But we could run like a campus guide and a backwater towards Scavenger and Kiora. Kiora adds a lot to the power level of the deck, and while she is technically a 3-drop, because we want to attack with her with Threshold, we'll still get like the maximum value out of her. If we can't cast her until like turn 6 or 7 or something, that's still going to be fine. So I think Kiora, Scavenger, and a Campus Guide might actually be okay here. Maybe Burnished Heart or Banner over Campus Guide. Oh, I forgot about the Leyline Axe, though. So we got to make room for that, too. Yeah, I really hate putting lands on top of my deck and then having to draw them the next turn. Maybe I'm undervaluing the guide, but I'd rather just go like Heart and Banner. 1 island here. If I go for the splash, which is probably right and sealed. If I cut all of these, you'll need to cut 3 more because I actually did put in a lot of cards to get some fixing in here. Obviously, like bannering for a splash color is awkward because we're not buffing any creatures, but this gives us the flexibility of still doing something when we draw it and we already have our blue source. And then we can just like play it on white if we've got some cat tokens or something out, or play it on black if we've got multiple black creatures and get some extra damage out of it. Whereas the 2/1 body is like really, really meaningless at the wrong time. I guess like if we shove the Leyline Axe in here, I kind of don't have to splash. This is 17 lands right now, so if I put 1 more card in here, we could just be pure black-white. So we put in one of our filler cards, maybe the skeleton, claws out the guide, just for a 5-drop. I don't mind a fake your own death here. Creature count is 13. That's a little low for a fake your own death, but I feel like this card plays incredibly well with our 2 1/1 creatures, our Helpful Hunter and our Burglar Rat. Love using fake your own death to have one of these trade up and then get its enter effect again. It's always a really powerful way to utilize the card. And only 13 creatures, though. Fake your own death could definitely just get stuck in the hand on occasion. Leyline Axe wants more creatures to go with it. Savior wants more creatures. Although if I put another creature in, I don't think I'm putting in a 2 or 3. I think I'm just putting in one of the 5-drops if I look at this curve. Yeah, I'll just put in that Armasaur guide. So this would be the pure black-white build of the deck. But it definitely looks good. It's consistent. It's got a great curve, tons of removal. It's got a full-on board wipe, the Leyline Axe, of course. It's got some power to it, but I could definitely see the argument of pushing towards blue-black. Obviously, the mana base we would change. I'm not going to commit to this deck like this with a couple blue sources for no reason. Although, Cat Collector could be reason to play a couple tapped black sources just because they gain 1 life. Only 2 cards in the deck that trigger off life gain. That feels a little low to fully like play tap lands just for that. But if you have like 2 cat collectors or a cat collector and a primate or something, the more you have, the more you get to the point where you could be interested in playing off-color tap lands just to get a trigger off of playing your land for turn. And by off-color, I don't mean like we'd play a red-green life gain land in here. I mean like a blue-black life gain land without any blue cards, because it's still a swamp. We just play our swamp tapped to trigger our cat collector. I don't think it's deck's at that point, though. So it would look like this. Although I think the colors are swapped here. It's probably like that, because we have Nighthawk and 2 Eaten Alive and Bacon Suipai for double black, but only the 1 Day of Judgment for double white. So it's 9-8 in this direction. Yeah, let's save the black-white deck. And I think I like that better than the splash blue version of this, because again, our fixing is so awkward. We'd have the 1 backwater, and then we have to play like a banner or a burnished heart or something to fix towards the Kiora. I mean, I suppose I could play literally just Kiora. And don't splash in the Dreadwing Scavenger. Although I imagine if I'm already splashing blue, this card is strong enough to cast later in the game and have it still be pretty good. Yeah, the fixing is awkward. I mean, I might still do it, but I want to take a look at the other color pairs real quick, because they had some really powerful spells. I actually do like our black a lot, and I was saying before, the problem with our fixing here is that we aren't super likely to play black, considering there's no rares in black, but if we go blue-black at the core and splash the green, we get some pretty high card quality in this deck. Tons of removal. We get the Kiora, the Dreadwing Scavenger, the big spider thing. I'm not going to play Erudite Wizard. Okay, so splash green. That would be just Spinner of Souls, just Tachiova. I don't think green has enough main deckable cards to play like green-black or blue-green. The big draw to do that is then we get Grow from the Ashes, but Grow from the Ashes and Bushwhack for fixing, but like there's nothing else there really. A 2/2 and then 6 drops. Yeah, we can't do green as a core color. Play the Leyline Axe, the Dreadwing Scavenger, the Duels, the Banner. Can be whichever color we choose, and maybe a Burnished Heart since we are 3-color here. Okay, there's 2 lands in this deck, so this is 31 non-land cards. We need 27. That's 5 mana removal. Definitely got enough actual just full-on removal spells to not play the bounce spell. Maybe not even the witness protections. This is awkward. I'm almost turning towards mono black here. Just mono black, splash blue and green. Because I don't think self-reflection's great either. It's a lot of mana. It's good if you're really, really consistent at milling yourself or drawing and discarding a card. So I think it's better in draft. But here we just have Scavenger, Kiora, Plunderer, and Refute. It's not horrific, but I would rather draft a little harder around it to just shove it in a deck like this. Move some of the sack nonsense. Probably still work this mana base without a Burnished Heart in here. For 1 more cut. Play 1 Witness Protection just to have a ton of removal. This just looks worse than our black-white deck. Like, it has potential for the nut draws with Kiora, Scavenger, Tachiova, Spinner, but it looks much less consistent. And the black-white deck obviously has like a Day of Judgment as well for potential nuts draws. This curve is Super awkward. Yeah, I'm not really into this. And again, the green's just so light, I don't see a green-blue splash black or anything like that. Could take one look at Boros here, and then one last decision between pure Orzhov or Orzhov splash the Kiora. So one look at Boros real quick. We just cheese people out with a mountain of 2-mana creatures. I mean, it is exactly what I thought it would be. Trying to cheese people out. Just cut some 2-drops. Probably not even supposed to run Day of Judgment in this build. This build is very funny, but I can't imagine it's better. 7 2-drops into 3 Felidar Saviors? It's possible, man. 2 Goblin tokens there. The bomb power is way lower. The removal is way lower. But with 3 Felidar Saviors, this is like almost every game. Just slamming down a Felidar Savior with the 2 extra counters turn 4. 3 ways to buff the whole board potentially. 2 Closeouts and a Goblin Surprise. This is the closest deck I think we've built to meeting our black-white deck in power level. This could be like actually a thing. And Seer Slicer Goblin is actually some bomb power. Cat Collector's pretty insane. This might be a real deck. Yeah, I think we've got 2 super good directions to go. We have Boros hyper aggro here, trying to cheese people out with Claws Out, or Orzhov Grindfest. Much more consistent deck, but less explosive up front. We can't just be like, oops, we win anywhere near as often. I'm going to roll for that consistency here. We're going to roll Orzhov today. Oh, I did forget to put the Leyline Axe in the Boros deck, so we did have that bomb power going in any deck we play. So I guess it is equivalent bomb power. It's Day of Judgment versus the Raid Goblin. But the amount of interaction we get out of this black is so good. The Boros deck really doesn't interact if our opponent plays a great rare or anything. And this still has potential blowout curve outs. It's got the triple savior still, and it's got 5 2s, 4 3s. Can still jam in there. Yeah, I'm gonna go Orzhov over the Boros. I do need to put one more card back in, which I think is the 5-drop here. I could, again, I could put Kiora in. But I think I'm rolling for consistency on this one. Yeah, come on in, Curve Topper. Big old dino. So here we are. Nice, consistent, grindy Orzhov deck. It can play the early game curve outs into Felidar Saviors, get aggro, especially with the Leyline Axe. It can grind out the long game with card advantage plays like Burglar Rat, Hopeful Hunter, into a Day of Judgment. It's got plenty of interaction for whatever our opponent is doing, with Pilfer, Stab, Banishing Light, Make Your Move, Bake into a Pie, Double Eaten Alive. This looks like a really consistent deck that we can certainly battle it out with against almost any archetype, so pretty excited to play around with this one. So we will call it a deck here and hop into the gameplay. Here we are for game 1 with some pretty awkward mana. Pretty tempted to mulligan, but in theory, we could mulligan to 6 and then ditch a Helpful Hunter, and we would have kept this 6-card hand. Burglar Rat, Pilfer. I think we just keep the 7. Certainly not happy with this mana position, though. And there you go. Never didn't have it. Our opponent's playing in space. They're preparing for the Eternities set coming out next year. Okay, I already have plays for quite some time, so I think I'd rather just harass my opponent right now. I'm not going to block Pridemate well anyway, so let's pilfer immediately. Okay, our opponent is blue, white, black. They don't have the black mana yet. Celestial Armor's such a huge deal. Countering removal spells, winning combat immediately, giving flying for the rest of the game. I imagine I have to get rid of that. Then they get to Epiphany to get back their card advantage later. And obviously if they hit a black source, the Scavenger is going to be the scariest card, but they don't have one yet, so I think that's definitely not the choice. Okay. No life gain for this Pridemate yet, so we could get a double block soon enough. Still kind of chillin'. I like all the cards in my hand. I don't need any more options yet. So let's Burglar Rat them while they're a little lower on cards before they play the Epiphany, and they discard the Epiphany. Alright, I will absolutely take that. Got a 3-for-1 off of Burglar Rat. Shut off their draw 3. Okay. Can bake Pridemate into a pie or just set up the double block. Let's just set up the double block. Okay. Certainly going to need some action here, but if our opponent resolves anything that puts too quick of a clock on us, we can just blow it up. Let's see if they drew into a combat trick over these turns. They did not. Some awkward draws over here. In theory, I could just bake this Lookout into a pie while it's tapped here. Shut off their card draw engine. It's not card draw, it is card selection. But it could still be worth killing because it lets them dig towards something that actually matters. I don't think I'm going to do that though. Cat Collector. Sure. If they don't kill it, it is a 3-2 and a 1-1. It only triggers during each of our turns, so I have to sack this during my turn. If they have instant speed removal, they can kill it without me getting a cat. But they did not. Strix Lookout MVP. At least they're having to discard actual cards each time, instead of just extra lands. Now there's Helpful Hunter. Super good card here. Give some fuel for the Lookout at worst. These lands are really not helpful. Oops. Am I just stable enough on the ground to just finally bite the bullet and blow up this Lookout? They playing over 40 cards? How do they still have 24 left? They've used that a couple times. Oh, I guess that it didn't resolve yet this time. I'm not killing this thing. Okay, Felidar Savior. Now I might kill it. They're putting a counter on it. Sure. Now it definitely matters. Oh, I like that no attacks from our opponent. I do not like that draw. So because the Cat Collector only makes cats during our turn, they could have attacked in there and I would not have blocked with Cat Collector. We couldn't have made a 1-1 cat to go for the double block. Do I have to eat alive this Felidar Savior? No. I don't have a ton of life gain in this deck. I think I need to trade Cat Collector into Savior if they attack. Okay, Banishing Light stops that anyway. Flood Machine over here. Got one Day of Judgment out of 23 cards. Unless I draw exactly Day of Judgment, I think it's better to just get this thing out of the way right now while we have no blocks on board. They still drawn exclusively non-lands? Jeez. Oh, that's such a gross draw. The Plunderer with no raid trigger. Because I have not drawn a creature in a long time. Alright, we'll eat that thing alive for sure. I'd be really surprised if they don't attack here. Yeah. We know their hand is still all spells, so let's see what they've got here. Alright. You got me. The 4-for-1. I mean, it's a 3-for-1 minimum. They get a 5/5 flyer and draw 2 cards minimum because they get to split the top 5 into 2 piles. Make a 2-card and a 3-card pile. And at worst, they get a 2-card pile. Oh, sure. You can have an Angel of Finality. I kind of lose either way. 4 lands. Nice. Even 4 lands would be valuable here. Because 4 is a lot. So if they like get to play that, if they hit another Strix Lookout, that's where it gets really valuable. Or like a Dreadwing Scavenger, we knew they had one of those. So either pile was really good for our opponent. Man. And that's game. 0-1 to start us off. Alright, here we are for game 2. Things already look much better. I do need a land. Well, 2 lands. I need 2 lands sometime soon-ish. Alright, Burst Lightning the Blood Witch. I will happily gain a life. Since we have the Day of Judgment in hand, we're really happy. I was gonna say we're really happy to see them spend removal super early. But of course, the Pilfer. Oh, this is going to make it one of these really obnoxious games where somebody has a board wipe in their hand and each player knows about it because they're just going to Pilfer Ghoul. And then we're just going to stare at each other and no one's going to play creatures because there's a Day of Judgment. Wow, they hit the Savior. Here. Yeah, them not hitting the Day of Judgment, though, that means this game is going to take like 20 minutes. Because no one's going to want to overcommit to the board. Oh, what a sealed pool, my god. Oh, that's frustrating. I'm so far behind in cards, I'm going to have to somehow pull off a 2-for-1 or something from this Day of Judgment. But obviously they can just play around it. Show me Seeker's Folly number 2 so I can move on to game 3. Sower of Chaos, okay. It's the really disappointing part here. That already wins the race. They don't have to play anything else for the rest of this game. They can just attack me with that one Sower of Chaos until they win. Okay, now they can't. Show me the Burglar Rat, because I think it's much better to hold the 1 mana up here to have access to Ghoul's ability in case they want to blow up Felidar Savior. than it is to hold this land, just in case they have exactly Burglar Rat. Yep, that's annoying. Can't make that big enough to survive in a braid. Gotta do what you gotta do. Okay, that card is really good. 4/4 menace by itself. That card is also really good. Now we have 4 lifelinking power on our board. Might as well, man. Might as well. Man, this open run is comically bad right now. I do not think this deck is nearly as bad as it's performing. These are just some absolute run-ups for us. Just getting beaten with a sack of potatoes each game. I feel like I'm getting absolutely clobbered at every turn. Well, this is getting better for us. They're still up in cards. $17, you know what? You got it. Show me your next creature first, in case it's like an Atali or something. Big 4/4 flyer dragon or anything else. Looks like it is not. Okay, I like that. It's really good here. Sure. It's gonna be goblins plus a combat trick. It looks that way. Sure. You got it. I still get my raid trigger, so I know my next draw is good, and a 2/2 on board, so these 1/1s don't get in. Banishing Light, right? In case they hit another good card. If they draw Dead, Infernal Vessel's the scariest card here. I can't imagine it's Burglar Rat, because this is so likely to just be another land, and if they hit anything, they'll just cast it. It's Vessel or Light here. I'm going to take Banishing Light for next turn. Feels like our best bet. I'm going to keep holding on to this land for if I hit something I don't immediately want to cast, because with 2 Pilfers and the discard 2 spell in their deck, I feel like if they have any Burglar Rats in their sealed pool, they are definitely playing them. Could trade into the 2/1/1s. It's probably best to wait though, because I could draw into a stab or something. Okay. They could have their own combat trick, but they also have a food token that's going to hold for them. It's going to hold priority, so like we'll never know for sure. Okay, cool. We do kill both of those. We're not going to eat our food just because we have the open mana, because we have a cat collector in our deck. Okay, Immolator is a little annoying, but thanks to Death Touch, we're always going to trade into that thing. So 13 life. I guess I'm technically at like 16 with the food. I can't Banishing Light it. That's the really annoying part, is that I can't just like attack and then Banishing Light if they don't block. I guess if they don't block, we'll race a little bit. This might not be the best decision. Could see maybe we're supposed to just hold Plunder. Because they can't attack into it because of Death Touch. They could sack and trade with it, but... yeah, let's just hold. Okay. There's a 3-2. And there's a 2-3. So we play Savior. This forces the Immolate on the Plunderer here. And then the Savior trades into the Blight Priest. And we're still staring at each other. Waiting for somebody to draw something scary. We're really looking for Cat Collector as our best draw. Armasaur Guide is actually maybe even stronger though, just the 4-4. Leyline Axe would be huge. Then any creature we draw is insane. Still have one Eaten Alive in the deck. I could immediately Banishing Light this Blight Priest to slow down their damage output, but I want to wait at least a turn here because I don't want to kill it and then something better immediately pops out. Okay, 2-2 is not better. Alright, I don't have time to take 5 a turn. Okay, any creature we draw is going to be insane now. And I'm playing these lands now because I'm actually going to need a lot of mana to be moving an axe around and eating a food in the same turn. Like if I draw Cat Collector, I need to spend 3 on the Collector, 2 to eat a food, and 3 to equip an axe. So I need 8. I guess I didn't need the 9th mana. Oh, man. And that can tutor the best creature out of their deck by sacking the Ghoul. It can also just hit me a ton. Well, we started this top deck war in the lead, which was surprising because the turn 2 Pilfer and onward from our opponent, the Pilfer into the discard 2 was like a horrific start for us, but then we managed to be in a top deck war position, started the top deck war drawing better than them, and just ended the exact same way as game 1. Big ol' land clump against multiple threats. 0-2 it is. I really don't think there was anything we could do in either of these games. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. Let's get pilfered again, everybody. And get into our next run. Okay. We ditch. Probably Eaten Alive here. I want to go Valkyrie into Plunder into Savior, I think. And then obviously the Day of Judgment is going to be the quote-unquote removal spell in the hand. Okay, Cat Collector into Savior is also kind of crazy. Ah, man. Vampire Nighthawk. That is going to make it really hard to get our raid trigger that we want, so we're going to have to banish that. But I can't do that if I don't hit the land. 2, 3, 4 curve out. I guess this is also a 3-drop, but still curving out over there. Okay, now I can get my raid trigger. Since they did attack. Probably have to just get the mana. Wow. I need a plane specifically. Decline. Oh, man. We're 3 cards closer to a plains now, I guess. Ooh, natural green, white, black from our opponent. 16 life. Bounce there, take 3. Don't need to play Banishing Light yet. Take 2. They played another creature. Come on, plains. Day of Judgment could win it for us. Oh, baby. 2 cards in their hand. We have Banishing Light make your move for those 2 cards. And then we just make a board. Oh my god, am I really gonna die to Revenge of the Rats? What planet am I living on with this Arena Open run? The planet of O3s. Yep. We're gonna die to Revenge of the Rats. That's embarrassing. Oh boy. Come on, man. I'm at 9 here. That exactly 9 gets through. Exact lethal. That's the most frustrating Arena Open run I've had in a long time. 0-3 with this. I mean, there's just nothing we can do. That's just how the cookie crumbles there. We could have played a different deck, but a different deck could have drawn just as bad as that. Yeah, this deck is way better than it functioned. That was insane. Well, at least it's over with nice and quick, and we can hop right back into another run of the Arena Open Day 1, but that's competitive sealed for you. Sometimes you just get slammed. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it and you're interested in seeing some more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.